Hello again, everybody. This is Derek coming back at you with another Wargaming and miniature video. Today's video, we're going to continue on with my Ancients project update. And in today's update, I've got a complete army to show you. It is my early German or my lowland Gaelic army because the miniatures are basically the same. There's a few differences, but you can use the miniatures for both. The majority of these figures are Old Glory. I went ahead and painted up a cavalry unit, as you can see right here. I took a couple of the command figures from the early German command, and I went ahead and included them in the cavalry. So this is a 4-base cavalry unit. All right, I went ahead and swapped it out with, now I've got some skirmishers. These are javelin skirmishers. I can field them as either 3 groups of 4 bases, or I could field them as 2 groups of 6 bases. Either way. So there's a total of 12 bases of skirmishers right there. All right, let's check out the next unit. All right, and we got 2 units here of armored Gauls, or the Gaelic, armored Gaelic infantry warriors. I'm using these 2 units as noble warriors in the army. So the chainmail that they're wearing, basically, since everyone's in chainmail, it basically denotes that they are nobles. Now, you'll notice that on, like, that stand, they all have the same colored shield. That was totally by accident. I had these all on popsicle sticks, as you might have been noticed as you were following along with my construction of this army. I popped them all off and I set them off to the side, and then I just pulled them randomly based on what their pose was, their weapons combinations and things like that, because I wanted a mixture of weapons and poses. And then when I had put them together, same with like this base, they're all brown shields, and then they're all like the tan shields. It just came out random like that, surprisingly enough. All right, so these are the two noble units. Let me pull out some other units. All right, now here is 3 warrior units. You'll notice that they're all 6 bases. 3 bases are close formation, so you'll see 4 figures, and 3 bases are loose formation. You'll see 3 figures. So it's a 50-50. Like on this unit, you'll see all the close in the front and all the loose in the back. This represents a flexible unit. In each of my units, I tried to put an officer, a standard, and a musician, but I didn't have enough to go around, so I kind of mixed them up a little bit. Like you might see a standard and an officer there, but here you're going to see a musician, a standard, and an officer, and over here you're going to see an officer and a musician. So, because I only had 8 of each, and I did 10 units, so I had 10 officers, so there's an officer in every one of them. But because my officers, I basically just used additional figures from my armored Gauls. All right, so let's go ahead and pull some more units out. All right, and here is another 3 units. Intermixed throughout all the units, you'll notice that there are these long spearmen. I kind of randomly intersperse them because they're in Meg. The Germans and the Gaelic do not have units of long spears, uh, only short spears. And these are long spears. So I don't really remember where I got those figures. I think they are Old Glory, but I don't remember. And I had them already based as German long spears for another game, and I went ahead and just stripped them off of those bases and included them with these figures here to to basically reuse them and to give a variety of weapons for the units. You'll notice that the officers, there's a couple of additional officers. I also don't know where I got them. They were included, like this blonde guy here, they were included in my long spear unit, so I just went ahead and reused them as well. All right, let me bring out some more units. All right, and this is the next 3 units. Now, I want you to notice, like when you're looking at these figures, they're not on any of the bases. They're not in a straight line. They're not shoulder to shoulder organized, or what the game calls as drilled or formed. These guys are actually considered tribal, so I tried to put them on their base kind of in a haphazard mob style. All right, and so that would be 7, 8, and 9. Remember, there's been 3 units per. All right, let me go ahead and bring out the last warrior unit. All right, now that is the 10th unit. If you were curious, I am using NOC 2.5 millimeter or 2.5 millimeter static grass. It's spring meadow, and I also have a few of these little stones added in there as well. What I do is I take a tub of static grass, I drop a bunch of ballast in the static grass, mix it all together, and then it's basically random. So when I reach in and grab some static grass to put on my bases, if a stone falls out, then that's great. If not, that's fine as well. So like on this guy, you can see there's a stone. Well, you might not be able to see until the light shines on it, but there's like a stone right there. There's stones, like 1 or 2 stones on all the bases. It just works out that way. Okay, so with 10 units, that makes for 60 bases. All right, and finally, I have 4 generals that I went ahead and did. You'll see that one of them has 3 figures on the stand, and 2 of them have 2 figures, and 1 has 1 figure. The way Meg suggests that you do it is base the number of figures based on how many cards they draw each turn. I think that's a good method, but this base would be way too crowded if I did it that way. So I'm doing it 3 maximum. Like an army commander is going to have 3 no matter what your command value is. You'll just know that because it'll be on your army list. And then these 2 would be subordinate commanders as well as him. And if you do have one that's like mediocre and the other are talented, well, at that point, you can decide which one's going to be mediocre. And I would pick this guy because he's all by himself. Or if you've got if you have a competent and a talented, you just basically have to figure it out and then just understand. I mean, it's not hard. You've only got 4 generals. Also, you might have an allied general as well. But if you're going to have an allied contingent added to your army, then it would come like when I go to assemble an allied contingent, like let's say Italians or Britons or whatever I'm putting together, I'll be assembling a general at that time, and so I can use their own general as an allied general. So basically these generals are specific to their own, so these are native generals. There's a couple of generals on here I really want to point out. Like this guy here could very easily be a Vercingetorix. This general here, which I thought was very unique, he's got like these ram horns on his helmet. I thought that was really cool. He looks a lot like Tim from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. You know, Tim, the wizard Tim. And then the rest of these guys are just Gaelic Germanics. All right, so now what I'm going to try to do is move the camera back. Also, you might notice, before I do this, you also might notice that I decided to go away from the round bases, and I'm going to definitely stick with the 40 millimeter squares. All these bases, every one that's in use, is a 1.5 millimeter thick base, and that's so when they're in units, blocks, they will be able to be pushed together and not I got this big thing about bases that are too thin. And thick bases are okay for big models, but for little models like this, if you put them on a really big base, it just doesn't look right. Oh, look at that, some stones. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the turntable, and I'm going to try to put the entire army on the table here, move the camera back a little bit so you can see the whole thing in its splendor. All right, guys, this is the entire German or Gaelic army, and I've got 10 warrior tugs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all with 6 bases. These are flexibles, so half of them are 4-figure bases, and half of them are 3-figure bases, and that's with all the warrior tugs and the armored noble tugs as well, which I have 2 of those. I've got 2 tugs of skirmisher, actually they're considered SUGs, skirmisher units of 6. Now, if I wanted to field them like this, I could have 3 units of 4. I've got my 4 generals in the back right there. And finally, we've got 1 unit of cavalry right there. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a list up here somewhere showing you what is allowed in a Magna army, and I think I exceed that by 1 tug. I do believe. In a Maximus army, this is probably just under maximum, but I'm really focusing on Magna. This seems like a good size for a Magna army, and we'll figure that out, and I'll gladly show it to you. All right, so my next army needs to be the Marian Romans for Caesar in Gaul, but I think I might be excited to do Macedonians. Now, Alexander's Macedonians, now they're not necessarily going to be directly opposed to the Germans, but I think it would just be fun to do them. with all the pikes and high pass bits and uh, phalangites and peltasts and companion cavalry and all that cool stuff. A lot of bright colors I think might be a big difference, but I really do need to also get on top of my Marian Romans. All right, guys. Well, thanks for coming out and checking this out, and I will see you in the next video.